The album that we are going to be discussing this week is the brand new album by the Struts and Pretty Vicious. Pretty Vicious is the fourth studio album by British rock band The Struts. It was released on November 3rd, 2023. Short intro. There isn't a Wikipedia page for this this album, so not a lot of information. But Eric, your thoughts on the fourth album by the Struts?
I have been following the Struts since they've started. Um, they opened for the Foo Fighters when I went to go see them in the States in Spokane, and they were unbelievable live. As soon as I saw them live, I'm like, this band is really good.
Mhm.
They are really good. The lead singer is such a showman. You totally get Queen vibes from these guys. You totally get that like British punk rock uh, mixed in there. Their first album was kick ass. Second album was it was good. It wasn't as good as their first. Third album was not really anything noticeable, but this album is like gives me hope. I think this is very comparable to their first album. Um, it's just fun coming like Pretty Vicious. I love the name of this album.
Mm.
It's very like a British like rock and roll name for this album. Um, I thought it was well produced. It kind of had this like 80s vibe, but with like a punk rock twist to it, which I dug. Um, Opener, love the opener song. Too
Mhm.
good at raising hell. For those of you who haven't heard the song, it's like this guy who's pretty much just like your typical rock like famedom that's just going around, hooking up with women all the time. And I love that line where it's just like the sex was so good that the neighbor was smoking the cigarettes after. Like I thought that was so good. And I love the nonchalantness. It's like, oh, I'm getting bored of this because it's too easy. Right. I just love the play on that whole lifestyle. I thought that was really cool how they did that. Um, there's a couple ballads on this, like "Hands on Me." I thought was good. "Do What You Want" is good. "Rockstar." I felt like this is the rock star that Nickelback was trying to make with their Rockstar song. It's not the same song, but with that whole presence of what a rock star is, like this
Mm.
is what this perfectly depicts what this is. That lifestyle. Favorite song on the album? Uh, I gotta say "Better Love,"
Okay.
track number 9.
Okay.
I love the harmonies, and I love the breakdown, and then I love that ripping guitar solo in it, like, amazing.
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoyed this album. I listened to this album a lot.
Oh, wow.
Mhm,
Nice. Yeah, like this band is, or the music that they've put on this album is very British. Like you think
mhm,
British rock band, at least in a modern sense, this is very British rock band. Um, the album, it's pretty good. Like there's nothing complex about it, I'd say.
mhm.
It's relatively straightforward, just rock with some punk vibes in it. It sounds great, recorded well, production well. Like you hear all the instruments, vocally it sounds great, and the songs are pretty catchy. I did have a problem overall with the album. It didn't really grip me all that much
Mhm.
this time. Like the songs were all nice, but there wasn't really anything overly unique about most of these songs. I don't know. I've also seen them live on that Foo Fighters tour, and they're phenomenal live. They're so good. And I do agree with you. They give up those Queen vibes, but I don't
Mhm.
know. This album I know it sounded good, but there wasn't anything that I really cared about when I listened to it.
Mm.
It seemed very like I've heard this before,
Mhm.
because I didn't really hear anything new when I was listening to this.
That's very true. I think I'm just mesmerized with the guy's voice.
No.
because
Yeah.
he just has this like rocker, and he's able to hit those the falsetto notes, but it's unlike Freddie Mercury. Like Freddie Mercury, still the top vocalist of all time in my books, but this guy's has that like it's like this guy has smoked like 20 cigarettes or 20 packs of cigarettes because he's got that like high growl to his voice,
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know, like there's just something about it that's good, but I do agree with you. It's almost like the Greta Van Fleet.
Oh,
It's like a Greta Van
yes.
Fleet scenario, but obviously I feel like Greta Van Fleet sounds a lot like Led Zeppelin. Whereas these guys don't sound a lot like Queen. Like I can definitely get the Queen vibes, and I love how British rock they are,
Hmm.
the Struts. So there is that difference, but it does have that similarity of kind of like a Greta Van Fleet. It's like so I
Mm.
do agree with you. Like there is that similarity of like, yeah, I have heard this before. This does sound familiar. These hooks and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't really have a major complaint on any of the songs or this album in general. Like th- I was able to get through this album without being overly bored or like,
Mhm.
but I listened to it a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times like straight through. After that, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Like I didn't
Mhm.
feel the need to like go back and like a lot of times when a really really good song comes on, I'm like, what just happened there? And I have to like rewind it and like go back to that part. I'm like, what
Mhm.
just happened there? I never really had that with this album or any of these songs.
Mhm. No, I do agree with you with that. I don't know. For me, it was just like I guess I haven't heard this style in a very long time
Yes. Yeah.
in terms of new music, and I quite enjoyed their other stuff. Like I would still say that out of their albums, I would give them a solid 50-50. Like half of their stuff is good and half of their stuff is like very forgettable.
Mm,
Um that being said, I thought that the structure of the album was a little off. Uh like I would have loved to have seen a little bit more upbeat, like because they had a few ballads. I feel like they've had a lot of ballads
mm, yeah.
in this one than they should have. Uh, Although they were good, but a ballad is slow, and it's like so when you kind of add those up together, I just you kind of get lost,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this like it's overall just a nice album. So maybe
Mhm.
we'll just give it a final rating and then wrap this whole thing up. So Eric,
Absolutely.
final thoughts, rating, Pretty Vicious. What are you gonna give it?
I mean, I was happy because it was like nostalgia to their first album, Everybody Wants. So I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10 in my
Oh
books.
wow, 8 out of 10. It's
I
pretty good.
really enjoyed this album. I did
Nice,
enjoy it.
nice. For me, like it's a nice album. There's no real complaints about it. It's just like I've sort of heard this before and there wasn't anything that was overly interesting that happened through the course of
Mhm.
these 11 tracks. So it's like it's a 5.5 out of 10 for me on this one. It's like straight down the middle. It's like better. It's like average. It's an average
Mhm.
album. So it's I wouldn't tell anyone like don't listen to this cuz like there's definitely people that would enjoy this, especially
Mhm.
if you're looking for a modern British rock band. Like
Mhm.
this band would probably be one of my top recommendations. It's just
100%.
that there's nothing really new about them that I can really say like they do it better than the Who or put
Mhm.
whatever other British band you wanted there. It's just today's version of a British rock band.
Mhm.
But yeah, 5.5 out of 10 for me on this one.
Fair enough.
All right. So that was our discussion on the brand new Struts album, Pretty Vicious. For next week, the album that we will be listening to and discussing is the brand new Chris Stapleton album, Higher. we'll see how this goes, but I'm sure it will be good to great, somewhere there.
I don't think I've heard an album by this guy that I didn't like
Yeah.
so far. So I it sucks when it's like that, because then your expectations are that little bit higher, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, the other albums are great, so this has to be great. So
So we'll see. We'll see how that goes for next week. But yes,
mm.
we will be discussing Higher by Chris Stapleton next week. All right. So that's the Crossroads Music Podcast. Another week done in the books. Um, you know, what's our usual wrap up? Oh yeah, we're here at twitch.tv/ the
We're a
Crossroads.
podcast.
Yeah, we're a music podcast. That's basically it. But we're here at twitch.tv/ the Crossroads Music Podcast every Monday at 10 p.m. ET, 7 p.m. PT. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all the places where you get your podcast. We're there. Come yell at us on the comment section because we find them funny. But that's basically it. Thanks, Chasing Dragonflies, for the raid today.
Thank you.
And that is the end of this week's podcast. We will catch you all next time.